I'm Matt with etrailer, and today we're talking about the Thule Roof Rack on top of our 2023 Jeep Compass. Now this is going to be a great option for you because the Compass doesn't have a lot of space in the back anyways, and eventually you're probably going to run out of space if you are taking a trip. So a good place to store that extra luggage or whatever you have is going to be on top of your roof. And this is going to be a great option because we're going to have a decent amount of space to play around with here because this one we have today has a little bit of overhang. A typical advantage to having a roof rack that has overhang to it is you're going to be able to put those clamp-on accessories at the very end. It's going to be more ideal if you have anything like a kayak or if you have skis. Now we don't have a whole lot of space at the very end of here. You're definitely not going to be able to put a kayak over here. If you have a really small strap for your skis that might fit, that's definitely a big might. But what's nice about this is we have those T-channels up top. So if you do have those ski carriers that do mount up via this T-channel, they can get right up to this very edge, and it's going to be a lot easier to take your skis on and off. Another benefit to having the crossbar a little bit closer to your vehicle is you're going to be less likely of hitting your head on it. So in this position right here, I'm not going to be too worried, but since a vehicle is a little bit lower, we'll be more likely to hit it if it did stick out a little bit further. So just to show you an example, if I'm getting in my vehicle, and as you can see, it's pretty much right next to my head. So if we had something with more overhang, I'd be likely of hitting my head on this. But with what we have right now, it's working pretty good. If you're not a fan of any overhang at all, we do have more options on our website. We actually have another Thule roof rack kit that actually doesn't have any overhang at all. It's going to be a flush system. And what that means is, like I said, no overhang. Your tower is going to go directly into your crossbars. But the towers we have today are going to allow for overhang. And that's what's going to connect your fit kit to your crossbar. And we take a closer look at that crossbar. So first thing is it's going to have this arrow shape to it. That arrow shape is going to allow for it to be more aerodynamic to reduce that wind noise. What's also going to help reduce wind noise is this weather strip at the very top. It's going to prevent any wind from gathering in there and from any debris from falling in here and jamming up your T-channel. Like I was talking about earlier, that T-channel is going to be ideal if you have any T-channel accessories that you want to slide in here. And something I do like about how this operates is if you push up on this end cap, you have access to your T-channel. A lot of them you actually have to remove the end cap completely, so that's nice. That is really easy to access. And below, we're going to have that tower, and like I was talking about earlier, it's what's going to connect the crossbar to your fit kit. It's going to have this plastic lock core on here just for the time being. And you can actually get that traded out later on. You can find one of those on a website, and it's going to be a metal lock core. That's just going to provide more security for you. And then right beneath that, we're going to have the fit kit. The fit kit is going to be something that's specifically designed to fit on your vehicle, and it's going to attach by a fixed mounting point. And what that means is we're going to have these points on your fixed or flush rails that you're going to bolt this into. So you're not going to have a different variety of choices to place these. So there's some pros and cons to that, but we can talk about that later. Something I don't like about this fit kit though is this rubber adapter we have on the bottom. We have this gap in between the adapter and our flush rail. This is designed to sit usually on top of here so we don't have a gap. It just doesn't look as clean, and it can cause some wind noise because that wind can travel through there, causing some whistling, causing for more of an uncomfortable drive. But that's going to depend on how you're driving and how that wind is flowing through there. Talking about that fixed mounting point, it's going to cause for this to be in one location, so this distance is always going to be the same. So for our spread, going from the front of our front crossbar and the front of the rear, that's going to be 27.5 inches, which is pretty standard. and it's going to work with a lot of different accessories. It is important you do double check to see if that's going to work with whatever gear you have, whether that be a roof box, a basket, skis, or even a rooftop mounted bike rack. Now, if this doesn't fit your needs, you do have a second option. In the spot right next to me, there's going to be 2 additional holes that have some fasteners on them, and you can actually remove that and push this crossbar a little bit further back. But there's going to be some pros and cons to that. That's going to be a pretty far or wide spread. And since it's wider, we're going to be more likely of making contact with our antenna or a hatch. So definitely something to keep in mind. But for the overall height we're going to get, if I measure from the top of our roof to the top of the crossbar, that's going to be 5 inches. So that's not too bad. What I recommend doing though is just taking the total height of your vehicle plus your crossbars, and if you have any gear on top of that, include that too, just so you know what areas you can make it under. There's going to be areas more like a garage. As for the distance underneath, we're going to have about 3.5, which is going to provide a decent amount of space. It's really something more to keep in mind if, let's say you have a sunroof up here and you got some really bulky clamps. Those are going to be pretty close to each other. Now, if you have some really big knobs on those, that can be kind of tricky to tighten, especially getting your hands underneath here. You're already climbing on top of your roof, so it could be a tight fit. Just make sure you're checking what accessories and gear you have first. We're also going to have a weight capacity of up to 165 pounds. So what I recommend doing is just checking what your roof is rated for. You can find that in your owner's manual, and then from there, just go from the lowest rated component, just so you don't overload anything and damage anything. But in my opinion, I think this is a great option for you if you're looking for something that's going to give you a little bit of overhang and look pretty nice on top of your roof. I do like the design, and the finish really does match our flush rails. If you're looking for something with a little bit more overhang, I'd recommend the Yakima Roof Rack, because you're going to have the option to upgrade to whatever length crossbar you want, because it's going to have one continuous channel at the bottom of it. So that's going to be perfect if you choose to go with a load assist kayak on top of your roof, because it'll be able to hang on that overhang we have at the very end. But if you're really not going that route, you just want to carry boxes, bikes, or whatever up top on your roof, I think this is going to be an excellent choice, especially since I'm a bigger fan of the installation process of the Thule Roof Racks. But if you're curious to see what that looks like, just stay tuned and I'll show you the way. To start off the installation, we're going to lay everything out. So closest to me, we're going to have the crossbar itself, and furthest away, we're going to have the towers. In the center, we're going to have the clamps for the fit kit, the hardware, and the bracket. And then we're going to have 2 included tools, so it'll be Allen keys. And what I recommend grabbing is going to be a flathead screwdriver and a tape measure. The first thing we're going to do is grab the bracket of our fit kit, some bolts, and install it on our flush rails. When we're on top of our roof, you'll notice we do have these 2 fasteners on our flush rails. To remove those is really easy. All we have to do is grab our flat head, push underneath it, and apply pressure. I have to put my finger on top of it too to make sure that pressure is evenly dispersed, and then I can remove it. Now you're going to do this on both sides, and for the rear side you're going to have an option to either choose a set of fasteners closer to your front rails or further away, and that's just going to depend on whatever gear you have. Once you have these out of your way, we can grab that bracket and those 2 bolts. The way we want to do this is we want to make sure this bracket with this part that has that overhang is facing towards your rail, and we're going to line this up with those 2 holes where the fasteners were. Once we've done that, we're just going to put these bolts in, just about hand tight to begin with, on both sides. Once this is all the way hand tight, then we can grab our Allen key with the security end to it and tighten it down the rest of the way. Once we've tightened this down all the way, we'll just make sure we tighten all our brackets down on top of our roof, and then we can move back down getting our towers ready. We're going to come over here to our tower, and the way I like to start off with this is just to remove this end cap. If this is locked and won't come off, all you have to do is grab that flathead screwdriver and turn that until it's not facing the lock now. With this out of our way, you'll notice I have these clamps. This is going to be our fit kit. So there's going to be 3 parts of them. We're going to have part A, B, then we're going to have part C. And you're going to put them on in that order too. So I'm going to start with A. And the way this is going to attach is we're going to have these 2 tabs. They're going to go into these top holes at the very top and kind of fit into the contours of the shape. We're going to grab part B now, flip this over like this. You'll notice we have these holes on here. We need to line up these tabs with those holes. So it'll fit right into here, just like that. I'm going to push this on until it's fully flush. And this can be a little tricky sometimes, just because we have this tab right here. Getting that rubber adapter in place can be tricky, but once you maneuver it around there, it is solid. What we don't want to put on quite yet is clamp C. I like to save this because it's going to be a little bit difficult getting it on top of our rails. Where I do want to put this is on my crossbar itself. So to do that, I'm just going to grab the crossbar, flip it over. You'll notice we have this channel at the bottom. And to use that, I'm going to have to remove this end cap just by pushing down and pushing out. With this out of our way, I'm going to grab that tower, flip it over, and we want to line up these tabs with this channel right here. This is going to be in the wrong orientation if I try to put it on like this. We want that bolt to be facing out and away from our crossbar. And once I have this slid on into place, then it's just a good thing just to put this back on here so you don't lose it or forget about it. And with this attached, we can repeat that same process on the other side. With both the towers finally on here, we can start putting this on top of our roof. When I do that, I want to make sure it's in the right orientation. I want to make sure that this thicker side is facing forward and this thinner side is facing behind us. Once I've done that, I just flip this over and lift it on top of our vehicle. I'm just going to line this up with our brackets that we installed earlier and roughly place this on. What I'm aiming to do is to line up the bottom of this tower with the bracket, and when I have it on here, I want to make sure this back clamp that I'm holding right here is lining up with that opening on our bracket. And once it is, I just need to make sure both sides are doing that. We're going to grab that clamp C, what I was talking about earlier, and finally put this on. And as you can see, this is easier to do like this because we're going to have this opening at the top that we can line up. With that lined up, this is going to easily clamp around that bottom of our bracket. And we're going to grab this nut, line it up with that bolt. If it seems like it's going to be a little bit difficult, just put this in an angle. It'll help scoop up that bolt and line everything up into place. And you're just hand thread this on until it's hand tight and repeat this process on the other side. With both sides hand tight, I like to measure this out to see how much overhang we have, just to make sure this is going to be even on both sides. I already know it's a little bit uneven right now, so a way I can help fix that is just kind of hold my tower a little bit and push on the crossbar. You can push or pull on it to adjust how it sits, but that's how we're going to center this up and measure again to make sure it's even on both ends. When this is sitting the way you want it to, then we can grab that included Allen key with the torque device on the end of it and tighten this down the rest of the way. What this is going to do is help this tighten all the way around your fit kit, and it's also going to tighten your tower to your crossbar. It'll let you know when it's tightened all the way because you'll hear a click, just like that. And when you hear that, it's not a bad idea. Just give it a good shake test. Make sure everything's sitting on there pretty well, and make sure you tighten up both sides. The last steps are just kind of helping things look a little bit more pretty. So what we're going to be doing is coming underneath the crossbar. You notice I have this tab sticking out, and we want to push that all the way in until it's flush with the tower. That's going to prevent any wind from getting under there and creating wind noise. I want to grab this end cap, push it on, just lining it up with the contours. It'll clip into place, and grab a flat head to put it into the locked position. And then that will do it for a look at the installation and some of the features of our Thule Roof Rack on top of our 2024 Jeep Compass.